Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Team GT presents the RUF Party at Zandvoort. Will Vincent, along with David Ward and Scott Woodwith, we are currently waiting to get ourselves into the session like everyone else is. So we thought you'd give you guys a little bit of chat beforehand because, of course, this is the first official broadcast of the RUF. And as Sean Connery says, RUF. The way your mother likes it. So, David, you've driven this car quite a bit. I've driven this car quite a bit. And many people are calling it the greatest car ever to hit iRacing.
Yeah, without a doubt, this car is amazing to drive. Anyone who hasn't driven it needs to get behind the wheel of this thing and take it around the track. It's very good, stable. It handles like you would imagine a Porsche to handle. Now, I'm not a Porsche fan. I shouldn't say Porsche, it's a RUF, but you know, I imagine that's how it would handle driving around the track, and it's fantastic. And because we've got the three different specs, we've got the huge power of the rear wheel drive, which is over 700 brake, which is just an absolute monster to drive, and then we've got the two track spec cars, the C and the Trek spec. Now they're very, very close, but the C's a little bit more, it's a bit easier to drive. So anyone who hasn't started on the RUFs yet, definitely go to the C spec car before stepping up to the track spec. But today we're at Zandvoort and we're going to be racing the track spec version of this car, which is, you know, I've driven it around this track and it's absolute phenomenal, great fun to drive. We're going to see some close racing, some awesome battles. The times between these guys are, you know, we're talking hundreds of a second between each one. So we're going to see some amazing close racing around this track, tight and twisty track.
And you talk about tight, close racing. Now, a total of, 93 people tried to register. In fact, we had 100 people try to register in the end for the kickoff event. And it really has been promoted well by the guys over at Team GT. Also worth saying that the race is brought to you in part by ESRA, the European Sim Racing Association, who, of course, we broadcast the recent ESRA Rally Daytona prototype. $10 will go to anyone who finishes the race in a lottery, and we'll give you the results of that at the end of the broadcast. But we're running on with the track car, and I say it was insanely close with the qualifying times.
Yeah, ridiculous. I mean, you've got the real fast guys doing mid to low 34s, and then a little bit further down the field, you're talking like 39, 135s, and the gap between them is literally tenths of a second. So when we run through the qualifying grid, once it's sorted out, you'll see the times. We're talking hundreds of a second between, like, you know, a group of 20 odd plus drivers, and the racing is just going to be absolutely phenomenal. I'm really looking forward to this event because we have some real top class drivers coming over from who have driven the Corvettes, which is the CR6, and of course the McLaren MP4, which is also on the iRacing service.
It's gonna be legend. Wait for it. And I hope you're not lactose intolerant, because the second half of that word is dairy.
And a number of guys, 29 guys make the cut for this field. Yeah, we're going to have a bit of fun while we wait for everything. 29 guys make the field. Of course, Scott, you commentated your first WCS race at Zandvoort. It's a great track in Holland. In fact, arguably one of the best road racing tracks in all of North America.
Absolutely. It's a circuit that originally was founded back in 1948. The current layout was reversed to back in 1995. And it's a circuit that the first half of it has a lot of elevation changes, lots of sweeping corners, and the second half is a bit more flat, but it's still kind of a bit more twisty and technical a bit more. So you've got a nice mixture of the two different types of circuits. There's some crucial corners like Tarzan. You've got a long run down the pit straight down towards turn 1, slightly banked in there as well. Then you head through the turns such as Gerlachbach and then Hugenholtz as well. You go through Hunsrück and all the kind of very fast undulating sweeps. You get to Schieblack at the end of that section as well. Then you get to the technical sections where you start to get into corners such as the Masters Corner, Name Laws, then Corner Zondernaam as well. You go down towards the S corner, which was called the Audi S corner, a very tight little chicane on the entry, but opens out on the exit. And then the final two corners, Kuma and Ari Leyendijk, two very fast but long right-handers to take you back onto the pit straight. It is a very tricky course. It's 4.3 kilometres, which translates to 2.672 miles, and it has hosted racing. Of course, it was the former home of the Dutch Grand Prix. And more recently, it's hosted events such as DTM, the RTL GP Masters of Formula 3. It's been one of the most famous Formula 3 events on the calendar, along with that and Macau. So it's a great circuit. I think it's the only Dutch circuit, I believe, or the only mainstream Dutch circuit in Europe and in the country. So it's a very important.
The only Dutch circuit in Europe. They're all going to be in Europe.
The only circuit.
You're on a roll until then. You ruined it at the very end.
Fire him.
the only major circuit in Holland, probably the only circuit in Holland, as far as I'm aware. So it's definitely one for Dutch motorsport fans to treasure, given its rich history. And I think it's certainly a circuit that is definitely a bit of a benefit to iRacing member, because of course we had a fantastic race in the iRacing of WCS, which saw home hero Atsi Kirchhoff to take a victory. So hopefully the racing will be just as brilliant, and I'm pretty sure it will be with these fantastic RUF RT12 track spec cars.
We are going to get on-track action in the next 10 to 15 minutes. We have just received word from Race Control. But, David, let's break down that track in a little bit more detail. And you've got to start. And we've also got to decide whether we're going to call it Tarzan Corner or Tarzan Bocht. Because if I start talking really quickly, I might just use the Dutch names. But Turn 1, Tarzan Bocht, is a great corner for passing because it's banked. And so that if you do run too wide through there, you can stay too wide on the exit, and then as you go through turns 2 and 3, that's where you're going to get the really close racing. But the track narrows up so much along there.
Yeah, especially Tarzan's a great corner because it has a huge amount of camber as you're going in, so you're going to see guys who can brake a lot later and carry that speed through. And as you said earlier, if you're a guy on the outside and you have someone on the inside, you can defend on the outside and you can go too wide through that whole section, especially through 2 and 3, because turn 3 is also banked as well. It has a large amount of camber, and then you come up onto the long fast sweeping section, and just at the end of that it comes over a crest into a right-hander, and I think we're gonna see guys trying to hold it on the outside there, but it's so tricky just because the car gets a slight lift over the edge as they start coming on the brakes. The corner after that, it's very deceiving. You see a lot of the guys as they're learning the track that they brake a little bit earlier, but the corner opens out, so you can carry tremendous speed through that. Basically from turn 3 all the way up to turn 4. After that, we're coming into Renault, which is it's a tight right-hander, and it kind of sweeps back onto itself. And then we come into the Vodafone left-hander. This is a really tricky corner. There's not much grip there. It does open out, but the exit is so important, because as you come down to the Audi S's, you want to be carrying as much speed as you can, and if you can get alongside someone, we're going to see some overtaking, especially into the Audi S's, because this is a huge braking zone where you come down into second gear, and as you go over the curbs, which are very bumpy, and to remind everyone, in these Porsches, when you hit the curbs, you're going to see the cars bouncing a little bit and the driver's struggling. And
that's one of the big issues, though. That is one of the big issues, the bumpiness of the car over the... And it's one of the things that the drivers, I wouldn't say complained about, that we really have picked up on ever since this car's been released.
It is actually, you watch a lot of the onboard footage from the Porsche Super Cup and other Porsches, and because the weight distribution of the Porsche, the RUF, either or, they're the same thing, is over the back, and the front's very light. You get that kind of undulating motion, so when the car does actually hit over the high-res curbs or over a set of bumps, the car starts modulating as such, and just keeps modulating until it settles down. It's not too much of a problem. I actually like it. I like that experience. It makes the car feel quite alive. There are certain points where it does become a little bit like, hang on a minute, this is far too much, but as iRacing progresses, and I think there's an update for one of the Thai models, and that comes out, that's going to address this issue. So, yeah, back to what we were saying earlier, coming down to the Audi S's where the curbs are quite high and taking that inside line, we're going to see a lot of overtaking in that area. Then we come up to the right-handers, and it starts at Kumo, and this is a big, long, fast sweeping section, and it's so important to get your turning points right here, because if you turn too early for Bosch, you're going to understeer out and onto the gravel, and we might see a couple of guys doing that, but then we come back onto the start-finish straight and heading towards Tarzan again, where we have, again, as I said earlier, we're going to have some guys attacking each other and trying to make some big moves.
We'll get ourselves a proper walkthrough of the track once we get some video footage, which I say will be as soon as possible. This race, of course, is brought to you by ESRA, who will give $10 to anyone who completes the race. Also brought to you in part by the Will and Dave Show, which is Fridays, 4 PM Eastern, live on GlacierTV with my other friend Dave, unfortunately not this one. So it's kind of a bit like an ad-libbed Will and Dave show, but with Will and David at the moment, and Scott's just lurking around the corner for some reason.
I'd just like to point out I'm the original Dave. Like,
you are the original Dave.
Exactly, yeah, he's just an imposter. He's the other Dave.
Well, let's talk a little bit more about, this race itself. It's going to be 50 minutes long, so it is going to be challenging for these drivers on what is a very physical racetrack. But the field, as we often see on short racetracks where there are lapped cars that come into play, you're going to see battles which they eke out a little bit. You get a bit of separation between the cars, but then later on into the race, I think that it's going to start coming back to itself, where the drivers and the fights, they're going to kind of close up again. So I think this is going to be a race of maybe 3 stages, Scott.
Yeah, I think we're definitely going to see hopefully a race where we have battle all the way down the field. So it'll certainly keep us entertained, and that wherever we look, there'll be 2 or 3 cars dicing amongst each other, maybe even more. I mean, one-mate races such as this do tend to bring together what they call pack racing. So it obviously, because everyone's driving the same car, it does come down to driver skill. And some drivers will be able to adapt to the nature of this car better than others. If they've driven on other sims, a car that's similar to this, something like the Porsche Cup car as well, which, of course, as we said, rear-engine, rear-wheel drive, a lot of weight on the rear, which means you get a lot of traction off the line and a lot of traction putting your foot down, and a very light front end, which means, of course, it's good to turn in, but, of course, then it can cause a lot of oversteer if you're not too careful. I think you get the guys who can get up to speed with that car the quickest are going to be the ones, obviously, they're going to run away and be the ones that set the pace. But hopefully it won't be the case that we'll get one guy going off into the distance and everyone else is kind of gets into single file and no one's close enough to try and battle with each other. I think hopefully we'll get a few small little packs developing throughout the race where we'll get cars fighting for position. But of course, that's what we love with that kind of thing. If anyone watches any of the Porsche Carrera Cup championships that take place around the world, such as the one in Britain, the one in France, Germany, Italy, the Australian Porsche Super Cup as well, the Asian Carrera Cup, and of course the big one, the Porsche Super Cup that follows the F1 circus around most of the European venues and circuits such as Bahrain and Abu Dhabi for one. I think hopefully we'll get a good show, and of course, as we've got a nice mix of drivers who have driven a few different GT cars, such as the GT1 Corvette and the GT3 McLaren, this is kind of somewhere that's in the vicinity of the McLaren, but of course it's not as quick. Of course, this track spec one is not, I think, as powerful and as kind of prominent as you say one of the most powerful road going versions of this car. So I think we'll get a nice mixture of driver skill and driver types, and hopefully it'll provide an interesting spectacle out here at Zandvoort.
And David, to come back onto the idea of racing here as well, some people might try and be a little bit brave with what they do with their aero package, because of course the best place to overtake arguably is either down into turn 10 or into turn number 1, Tarzan corner. So you might have some people who try to go with a little bit less downforce. However, through that sweeping section from turn 4, 5, 6, 7, there's only so much you'll be able to get away with.
Yeah, the thing is though, is I was seeing earlier a lot of the guys during the practice session were very quick over one lap. Now, is this speed going to translate over a race distance? Because a lot of the guys are very skilled, doing that one fastest lap that needs to be done, but are they going to be able to keep that pace up throughout the race? Now, if you do move the aero on this car, especially, I did try it out earlier, as you were saying, if you're going through that long, fast sweeping corner, the car starts rotating a lot more, and it's very, very difficult to keep that speed up. Now, I think some of the guys are going to go for a conservative setup over the long distance, so we might see strategy and tyre wear playing out as this goes on, because some of the guys might wear out the tyres earlier, and others might be conserving them and hoping to make a push later on in the race.
So, just to give you an update, we will be bringing you live pictures in the next 2 to 3 minutes as we are preparing for Team GT Presents the RUF Party at Zandvoort, here live and exclusive on GlacierTV. To those of you who are just joining us, hello, Will Vincent along with David Ward and Scott Woodwis, Rafael Sang from iRacing Brazil on cameras as we get set to go racing for 50 minutes around Circuit Park Zandvoort, set in Holland, which surprisingly enough is in Europe as well. So we're getting ready to go racing for that. We'll be bringing you some live footage in just a couple of minutes, and really is the first big RUF event that we are going to be running at this year. Now, this car, so 3 cars have been released by iRacing, the 3 different specs, and I like how you alluded, David, to that rear-wheel drive one, because it is an absolute animal to drive, especially with the weight transfer as you try and go through those high-speed corners.
Yeah, it's a really unusual car, but it is very, very nice to drive, and I think it's the most realistic car that iRacing have on the service at the moment. The other cars are fantastic, but this one stands out head and shoulders above the rest, and I think when the new update comes out, with the new Tyre Model 5, everything else is going to start gelling together. They've been working really hard trying to get this car, released as quickly as possible. I know they've had issues with other things, but this car is without a doubt the funnest car on the service to drive, and it's very easy for people of all skill levels to get involved with, whereas some of the other cars are a little bit they take a long while to get used to, whereas for instance, my girlfriend, she was like, "What are you driving?" I said, "I'm driving the RUF." She was like, "Can I have a go?" We set up Brands Hatch and off she went, and she was quite easily going around and doing a number of laps without any problems. So this car, to me, it shows that the service is definitely making progress.
And it's on the NTM V5 as well, and the NTM V5, I mean, it's about 6 months now into its development lifestyle, and we have seen it on a couple of cars to date, but mainly on the slower cars, and really, it does show that they have finally cracked it on those high-speed cars, and gives a really good boost to all of the GT cars, be it the Corvette, the Ford GT, the McLaren GT3 car, any of them, also potentially the Riley, the Radical, so on, long term, on having some great GT racing in iRacing.
Yeah, sorry, Will, I was looking at the practice times then. I completely didn't hear anything that you said. Sorry, mate.
Right, we'll just ignore you. We are now, as soon as Raphael hits the magical button, we are going to bring you footage from Zandvoort. It will happen. I'll play some funky background music to get us going as well, and we will actually start showing you some camera stuff from Circuit Park Zandvoort. You looking forward to this one, David?
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to this. This is going to be one of the best races on the service here and now, and hopefully after this we can see maybe some official events going on. I'm really excited by this. We've got some top class drivers in this field right now. It's going to be a mega event.
Okay, here we go. So ladies and gentlemen, good evening and welcome to Team GT presents the RUF Party from Circuit Park Zandvoort. The track measures 2.67 miles in length, has 13 corners, and is the premier racetrack in Holland. Today, we'll be racing for 50 minutes around this racetrack. Check temperature right now is 78 degrees Fahrenheit, a northerly wind of 2 miles an hour, and race humidity is 55%. Some great drivers in the field here today. People like Mac Backham, people like Martin Asher, JB Masida, all trying to get themselves victory in the first big official race brought to you on iRacing and on Glacier TV. Will Vincent, along with David Ward and Scott Woodris, with Raphael Sank on cameras, and this race is brought to you in part by the ESRA, European Sim Racing Association, as we get set to go racing. David, you ready for this?
Yeah, this is going to be fantastic. I mean, I'm just looking at the practice times now. We've got Frederick Follestad, who is an exceptional GT driver. We saw him in the CR6. Really good driver. And we've got Eagle Samfeld as well. He's a very good GT driver. Matt Backerman, MP4 driver. Another top class driver here. And these guys are very, very close at the moment. I'm just waiting for the rest of the times to come in, but these guys are pretty much about half a second quicker than everyone else, but they're trying to really push the envelope here.
A little bit of a change to the rules as well. Originally, the guys had done qualifications and they were going to be qualified as they did. A little bit of a change of plan now. These guys have qualified to get into the field. They're going to qualify again to set themselves their times, which is interesting because there were a couple of people who scraped into the field with some bad laps. They've now got a second opportunity to try and get themselves up into that field, and it's going to be pressurized. 10 minutes, 3 laps, fastest one counts, don't go off the racetrack, and also try not to pay attention to what everyone else is doing.
Well, yeah, I mean, if everyone's going out and doing 10 minutes around here, 29 cars on this track is going to be a pretty packed out field. It is going to be quite interesting because we might see some of the slower guys who didn't actually get in a real blistering lap actually think, you know what, I'm going to throw it on the line here because I'm already in the main event, so let's go for it.
And of course, this race also powered to you in part by iRacing Brazil and also by Lemon Pledge. When life gives you lemons, make some Lemon Pledge. Cars currently circulating on the racetrack right now on their practice laps. We've got ourselves about 45 seconds left of practice before the guys head out onto the racetrack. And we'll give you a bit of a track walkthrough with one of the guys as they go onto their first flying lap. Who should we take a look at, David, do you think?
I think we should watch Frederick Follestad because he's just set a blistering lap of 1 minute 35.064, which is half a second faster, and it looks like he's absolutely on it right now. So if we can run the onboard with him, that'd be great.
And of course, Folly is amazing when it comes to this type of racing, David. It always has been good. In GT racing, we've seen him so many times on Glacier TV, and right now it's looking just like he's cracked this car early. Of course, you've got to take the idea of qualifications in 2 parts. Yes, it's go as fast as possible, but at the same time, you're limited to just a couple of laps. You don't want to overwork the tyres if you mess up in the middle of lap 1, for example. And at the same time, you've also got to consider the fact that you've just got to get that lap done, period.
Yeah, exactly. You gotta nail it straight away. I mean, but these cars, especially right now, is that when you first go out on the track, you've got cold tyres, so it's going to take a couple of laps for these cars to get up to speed. Some of the guys have worked out how to get the maximum out of their car straight away. Frederick's one of those guys, and as we can see, if we're riding on board with him, he's going to be just warming these tyres up, making sure everything's okay, and then we're going to see an absolute blistering lap from this guy.
And to run through your top 5 in the practice session, it was Frederick Follestad, 1 minute 35.065. Second was Angel Juan. Third place, Matt Backham. Sebastian Job in fourth, and then Maya Reddy rounding out your top 5. The differential between P2 and P5, well, that was 4/10 of a second on the racetrack. You have a look, though, from about P6, Julian Rodriguez Marino, down to 13th place, Martin Asher. They were separated by half a second, so it's very close in the midfield for the time being. We are, of course, going to keep our attention on Frederick Follestad. He's just coming out of the S-turn right now as he heads it down into Kuma box, and then he'll come into turn 13, Ari Lyondike box. Off you go, David.
Yeah, this is really important. You got to keep it tight. As you heard, he's slightly lifted. Got it back on the power to really carry as much speed down the start-finish straight. Now, the first corner is a very, very important braking zone. We should see him just brake around about now as he goes down into second gear. Hangs it really tight into the corner, gets back on the power, drifts it out wide, and then we're up to third, and then he holds it back down into second, just blip on the power, back down into second gear here, keeping it really tight, drifting it out wide, just touch the curb a little bit, and then we're absolutely flat out through this twisty S section as we come up to the crest of the right-hander. This is hugely fast as we bang on the brakes, down one gear, keep it tight. Oh, and he just spun it around there. He was like, that is exactly what happens. He's got cold tyres, he needs to keep his composure, and then he's going to give it another go. I mean, he's only got 10 laps here to do this.
10 minutes.
10 minutes. Sorry.
There we are. So, it's that corner, actually, it really is that tricky part, because it is so fast, and Folly just spins it again there. He really has got some issues now. But it's so fast, and there really is only one line through there, but you want to carry as much speed through there as possible, because it then sets you up for the next couple of corners as well. Good speed through there, good run down to the next corner, and good momentum for that sector 2 of the racetrack, which is why Folly put so much effort into that. We are going to get some provisional times up on the board in just a moment. Diego Comini is going to come past the start-finish line, and he does not set a time. He's actually just starting on his first lap. So no one has set a time as of yet. Now we get Juan Jose Sanchez Carudio, 1 minute 34. Wow, that's incredibly fast. 134.791 for the number 10 car.
Yeah, we're going to see low 34s here. I reckon 34.3 for the pole position here. That's what I'm betting on. So if we're on board with Frederick again, I mean, he's trying to make up for his mistake he had earlier, but I think he had cold tyres as we come up to this section again, because you're downshifting and you're braking, you undulate the car and the car starts lifting, and there we go again, and he just holds it. He's really pushing it there. I think he might just need to go back and chill out and get his head back together. We're giving him the commentator's curse.
Yeah, he's only got one more lap though, that's the issue. So if he doesn't do it on this lap, he'll start from the, next lap, he'll start from the rear of the field. The fastest guy in practice, and he right now is struggling. As it stands, it is Julian Rodriguez Mourinho in the number 9 car who is setting the pace with a time of 1 minute 34.698. Juan Jose Sanchez Caludio is in second in the number 10 machine. Kei Kashube is third provisionally in the 016 car, and he is the first of the guys in the 1 minute 35s. Fourth provisionally is Giuseppe Volca Jr. on the racetrack. Diego Comini just blips himself up into 5th position in the number 21 car, 1 minute 35.307. But guys we have on the racetrack, of course, you've got to keep an eye out on Diego Comini. He can be very, very fast in this car. Kashube looks as though he is on a faster lap right now. You've also got to keep an eye out to see what is going to happen to the likes of J-Beam Cedar, Giuseppe Volca Jr., and of course the guy who is on another lap, another run, Frederick Follestad. Let's see whether he can improve on this, what will be his final lap.
Yeah, he was really struggling on the last couple of sections, and he just needs to get this section right as it goes through. I know he's set the car up loose so he can carry as much speed through, but he just needs to take it nice and easy. So as we come into this section, he hits on the brakes, downshifts, keeps the car nice and tight, gets back on the power, lets the car drift out wide. Fantastic there, and then we just brake, downshift, just bang that curb, get back on the power as soon as possible, and then we downshift one gear, keep it nice and tight, let the car drift out wide, and then we come into the left-hander. This is really tricky, it's very slippy on this section, so he keeps it tight, gets back on the power again, runs it out to the curb. Now we're coming up to the Audi S's, where it's really important that you can brake late and carry as much speed over these curbs. As you go down into second gear, just hit the curbs, lifts over the car, and then we come into the left-hander, which is very, very tricky. Sometimes the car wants to rotate a little bit more. Now we're coming up to the real fast section of the track. We're in third gear. Just get back on the power nice and early. Don't want to turn in too early. Keep the car out wide, turn it in now, and there's like just lifting, feathering the throttle to try and get that car to rotate. And now we're coming over for the Frederick Follister's lap, which will put him in third place with a 34.9. This is what I was talking about earlier. These guys are so close together. I mean, you look at that, like, these guys are within a second of each other. What the hell?
Although out front, Julian Rodriguez Mourinho goes faster again, and he does a 1 minute 34.311. In fact, have a look at his 3 laps. All 3 of them were fast enough to give him pole position. Juan Jose Sanchez Corlidio is in second position. No one is going faster than him. Frederick Follestad in the 89 car is in third, and then in fourth it is, for the meantime being, Juan Paul Nelius. He is on, he's done his 3 laps. Keiko Shube is on his third and final lap right now. But Scott, very, very close lap times, especially once you get outside the top 5.
It's just incredible just how close the spread is on the guys in the 35. If you look at it, it's kind of, I'm looking at it now, it's 4th down to all the way to the 23rd. That's almost kind of like 19 car spread. Less than a second covers them, which is absolutely incredible. It just shows the calibre of the film we're dealing with here in tonight's race here at Zandvoort. The fact these guys are pushing as hard as they can, and we've got guys that are merely hundreds if not thousands apart in terms of lap times. I mean, one great example, from 15th and 16th, we've got Maya Reddy and Angel Says 1. And they're both separated by 200th of a second. That's just how close it is out there. There are some guys also sitting back down 21st and 22nd. And Angela Di Mella and Amano I Palumbo separated by 8,000ths of a second. So that's just how close these guys are. In fact, it's closer between Rasmus Lawson and Teddy Tournois as Matt Backen goes to 8th. I was watching his lap there. Matt Backen was over hanging a tail at anything he can get his hands on and drive. Is in 8th place, so he managed to hang the tail of that RUF and managed to get it into the top 10, which is a great effort. And also Jamie Mercedes, one of the guys we were talking about, to be one of the dark horses in this race, has only managed to scrape himself into the top 10, but he's a full second off the position. In fact, he's practically almost to the 1,000th, a full second off. So Mercedes going to have his work cut out to try and get himself into contention for possibly a podium from 10th on the grid. But then again, if he can keep his nose clean and keep his head while everyone around him is losing theirs in the first couple of laps, as we're possibly expecting, you never know, could spark a surprise. We could even see him up on that rostrum come the end of the race.
I think,
go on.
Yeah, I've just been watching Paul Limbrick like absolutely fly up to with his 35.366. I mean, he's a dark horse to watch as well. We've watched him in the MP4, and I think he's definitely in with a chance with the podium result here, because these guys at the front, they're going to be fighting hard and they're going to be on the limit, so it's going to be a little bit of a race of attrition, I think, as well, especially around this track with as we saw, Frederick was absolutely on the limit there and pushing very, very hard. So we'll see how the race pans out, but I reckon Paul's in with a chance of a podium result.
One guy left on track. He's not going to beat it back to the line there, and that was Ade Koba Lopez, who will have to start this race from the rear of the field, 28th position. He was not able to complete a timed lap. Let's run through your starting grid then for this race, and it's going to be a standing start. Let's not forget, Julian Rodriguez Mourinho starting on pole position, qualifying time of 1 minute 34.311. Juan Jose Sanchez Corridio in second position in the number 10 car, 1 minute 34.791. Frederick Follestad in third, 134.995. And Walpole Neelis, the first of the guys, in the 1 minute 35. He lines up in fourth position. Kei Kashibe in fifth, Luigi Nespolino in sixth position. Xavier Volker Jr. in seventh, Mac Backham in eighth, Diego Comini in ninth, and then JB Maceda rounds out your top 10. 29 guys in this field, the rest of the qualifying times up on your screen momentarily. Scott, who will win this race?
It's going to be a tough one, of course. I think the guys, of course, who are obviously near the front of the grid are going to be the favourites, of course. I think it might be a great battle between Marino and Quadrado at the front. Follestad, if he can keep that car pointing in the right direction off the bumps, he could definitely get himself in there. He was the only other man to get into the 34s. Of course, we talk about Jean-Paul Nihuis in there as well, Matt Backham, JB Maceda, Paul Ilbrink, guys who we know from other kind of events such as, of course, the iRacing World Championship Grand Prix Series with Paul Ilbrink, and, of course, also the Jean-Paul Nihuis, of course, and Matt Backham, both of them in the Air Endurance Series. They're no stranger to long races like this, so I reckon this should be pretty good. We'll see some drivers who don't normally drive GT cars or this kind of spec car, mix it with some of the guys who drive nothing but on iRacing, so this should be pretty close. I think it's been a little bit tough to call between Moreno and Quadrado, but looking at his kind of pace, he took pole by almost 4/10 of a second, so if he can eke out a gap and go from there, possibly I think Moreno could take it if he can keep his nose out of trouble and not get... if he can survive the first lap melee, he should be absolutely fine. He could just run away with it if he's given the chance.
So, we are getting set to go racing for 50 minutes around Circuit Park Zandvoort. Track length, 2.67 miles, and we are green. It was a good start there by Carudio, as they're going to be too wide as they come down into turn 1, but Follestad, an amazing start by him. He's going to try and look to the outside. He moves up into second position, going to go all the way around the outside into turn 1. No, he won't. He will fall back down into the second position, but Carudio is not done yet. They are all trying to get themselves single file. You do not want to be too wide through here. This is where we might get our first really big crash. We got a car off, a couple of cars off on the first couple of laps. But for the most part, everyone is through okay. I only see 2 or 3 guys slow. Rafa Brody is one of them as they're working themselves up through turn number 4 and 5 for the first time. Out front, it is Marino leading the way from Follestad by about 5 car lengths. Carudio down in the 3rd position. Follestad goes a little bit wide. And in 4th place is Kashibe, and 5th place is Jean-Paul Neelis. But what a start there, David, by Frederick Follestad.
Yeah, he's absolutely amazing on these starts. He got a really good launch from the car and managed to carry a lot of speed around the outside. I don't think anyone wanted to kind of do anything stupid. This is a very, very long race, but it looks like Frederick's got the speed here. And there's a move here for 3rd as we go down into the S's. Fantastic, just over the curbs there. It's like bunched up the field. He might have just let him have that. You know, this is a very, very long race. Everyone's going to be pushing hard. It's going to be kind of a sprint race, but everyone's going to be pushing hard to try and make up the positions that they didn't get in qualifying.
I tell you what, Kashibe, there was a little bit of contact between himself and Carudio as they came down into the S, which is where Kashibe made that pass, moving him up into 3rd position for the time being. Gaps as they came past the line. Gap between Mourinho and Follestad. That's a big crash.
Yeah, there was contact between Volker Jr. and Backham. I saw Backham was trying to go around the outside. I don't think he expected Volker Jr. to stick his nose up the inside or leave it there as much as he did. And Backham just turned across, and to be fair, Volker had nowhere to go. So that's kind of a racing incident, but Backham kind of was a bit too ambitious. Credit for trying the outside pass, but in the end it just didn't work out. And he's way back down the field on only the second lap of this 50-minute race.
Yeah, he is out. Some substantial damage there to that number 16 car, putting him out on lap number 2. As I was saying, Mourinho to Follestad, the gap was 1 second at the conclusion of lap number 1. Kashibe a further 0.8 of a second back, and Carudio now down into the 4th position after starting this race in 2nd. A further couple of car lengths back under pressure, however, from Jean-Paul Neelis in the 969 car. And I'll tell you what, like top 5 is very closely separated. Follestad goes off, Kashibe off!
Oh wow, he just got a little bit loose. This is what I was talking about on that corner there. It's that particular corner because it's such a low speed corner. As you turn in, the car just gets a little bit loose, and unfortunately Frederick just got on the power a little bit too early and just spun up the wheels, and that's dropped him down into 4th place. I think he had a slight bit of contact with one of the other cars, but we would need to check the replay.
Yeah, that all happened down at Vodafone Corner. It was Follestad just going a little bit too wide. He just, as that car transferred the weight, he got loose once and then twice. Kashibe saw it, tried to go to the outside, and then the car just basically used all the racetrack that Koshube was trying to go into. Koshube got some damage. Let's see how bad that is going to affect him, but of course at the same time, Follestad lost positions to Jan-Paul Niels and also Juan Jose Sanchez Carudo. He's now back up into the second position on the racetrack. But the gap between P1 and 2 now, Scott, is now 3 seconds on the racetrack after that melee.
I've said it so many times. If the guys are if these guys are fighting amongst each other, the easiest it's going to be for the guy in front to make a break. And Nico tries to make a move on the inside of Shiva. There was never a gap to try and make it through. So Quadrado holds on, but Follestad's looking racy, trying to reclaim that podium spot that he had before. The contact he had with Koshube down at Vodafone Corner. We're coming up to the scene of the accident a lap ago just now. Through Renault corner they go, up towards Vodafone, and this time it should be much cleaner. And he was taking a slightly wider run through Vodafone to try and get the better exit. But it looks as though that Quadrado's got it for the moment, and he is now just pushing on to see what he can do. Try and pressure maybe Quadrado into a mistake, and they come down into the braking zone for Audi S. And a lot of curve taken by Nicolas as he closes in with the chicane. He looks like if he's close enough, he'll get a nice little run.
Off again, down at the Audi S, and that is going to allow Koshube to go past him, and also Volker Jr. Now, we saw in qualifying that Follestad's car was a little bit loose. I'm having a look. There is a tiny crinkle to the rear of his car where he had that contact with Koshube, Koshube. But Follestad off for the second time. That now puts him down into what will be 7th position on the race. It's not going well.
Yep, there we go. Trying to go around the outside there and tries to do the switchback on turn 1, but just can't get on the power enough as they go into turn 2. The next corner, this carries a lot of camber here, and they take a real tight entry here. Can just get on the power enough more, but I don't think he's going to have enough speed to get alongside there. He's really struggling just to... Oh, it's so close. I mean, like, they are bumper to bumper here. A quick look down the inside. Yeah, he was. I mean, there's like, he had a quick look down the inside there, and it just pushed him offline a little bit. But, you know, I have no doubt he's going to be able to get back up to speed here and make a move. But he's looking really racing. Unfortunate about Follestad there. He's just struggling so much now. I think the contact and a tiny little bit of car damage has just upset his geometry a little bit.
Yeah, and he's now running in the 6th position, not the 7th position as I said earlier, so apologies for that. Guys who are out of the race, Max Backham, we saw him out on lap number 2. Rafa Barodi, we saw him having some incident on lap number 1, and Mambo Palumbo are all out of the race. The remaining 26 cars are still stored running on the racetrack, and in fact, actually, Ricardo Shibian looks as though he is out of the race as well, as is Teddy Troynoy. So 24 cars still stored on the lead lap, but very closely separated, only 18 seconds between P1 and P18 in this race, and some very close racing. We were talking about this before we went on air. Some very, very close racing up and down the field. These guys cannot pull away from each other, as Corrado goes a little bit wide there at the exit of Tarzan box. That allows Nelius to close that gap up as they work themselves down into turn number 4 once again. But Nelius not being able to find a way past that number 10 car right now. But all over the place, got very, very close racing.
And the one thing he can't afford to do is get himself too frustrated behind Quadrado, because if you can find yourself a way past pretty soon, you can start chasing after Moreno, because Moreno is now 4.2 seconds up the road. So that the number 10 car Quadrado is causing quite a few headaches at the moment for Nicolas, number 969. But I think possibly, like I said, he can get himself past pretty quickly. What he needs is a great run off one of these corners, if not Vodafone Box, but possibly through Ari Line onto the pit strip, because the aerodynamic effect of these cars is so great because you can get a fantastic tow if you're close enough to come onto a long straight. It looks as though he's not close enough to get one down through Vodafone Box, so they head back down towards Audi S. If he's going to try and move, it'll be a bit foolish to try and make a dive down here, and he doesn't. He decides to hold back a moment and be a bit wiser than that one, but close as he is on the exit, Nicolas goes around! Nicolas goes around, as our commentator's curse, if there ever was one, and Nicolas has gone straight around. He's dropped all the way back down several places. Let's see where he's dropped back to. He's managed to get back, get going again, and there's actually there's a three-way battle just behind him. That's between Archer, Masida, and I think also Foyle. Also, that's Sebastian Job in there as well. I'm not quite sure, but there is a great scrap going on between 3 cars. I think that Martin Asher was in there at some point. Nicolas is down to 9th place for the record. So he's down to 9th. He's gone down to 9th. But there's some great battles in the middle of the pack that go on behind Martin Asher. We've got Egil Sandfield has just lost the place to Maya Reddy into Tarzan, and Gilles de Mellet just behind him, number 1 in number 05. Under pressure from Ade Cova Lopez. He's come up from the back of the field, it looks like, and he's already up into 18th place. A great ride so far from that man in number 34.
Indeed, yeah, and he did struggle in qualifying quite dramatically, but these mid-pack battles are astounding at the moment. Nealis is on the attack, trying to get himself back close to the rear of JB Messina. In fact, he's very close. He might try and have a look. No, he doesn't. Not just yet, but Nealis, he did get a little bit of contact and damage when he spun at the LDS. He's now dancing inside contact again.
Oh!
Nealis upside down into the tyre barriers. His day is done there, and he just got turned into by JB Messina in the number 37 car. Coming into the corner, yes, the 969 car did make a bit of a late move, but Messina didn't see him turn into him, and Messina carries on, but Nealis is out of the race. So the day that started off so well for that 969 car is now gone from bad to worse, and some serious damage to that car. It's back the right way around, but serious damage to him, and he looks as though he will not be going much further in this race. Marino still leads from Juan Jose Sanchez Carrillo by 5 seconds now on the racetrack. Ken Kashube is still scored in the 3rd position. Xavier Volker Jr. still in 4th. Folestad up into 5th position once again. Luigi Nespolino in 6th. Diego Comini in 7th. Paul Ilbring 8th. Sebastian Job in 9th. And Adel Suarez-Jan rounds out your top 10. But I tell you what, Kei Kashube, he's dodged a couple of bullets in this race, still running in 3rd, and he's only 1.2 back from Carrillo, David.
Yeah, I've been watching these lap times of these guys, the front 3 runners now. Now they've got a little bit of clean air, and Mourinho is just absolutely ridiculous. He's just been like pounding in 33 fours consistently. 33 fives consistently. He's like a machine. It's ridiculous. And the guys behind him are doing 33 fives, but they're 2 tenths slower, and they're going to really find that over the course of this race, that's just going to eke out the distance lap after lap after lap. I don't know if they're going to be able to pull that in, but we're going to see a fantastic battle now between Kashube and, I'm going to butcher some names, Sanchez here.
I'll just say it, yeah.
Yeah, you say it.
Well, you know, if you ever get confused, just do what I do. Just use car numbers. The 10 car and the 016 car. There we are, done. But Kashube's got a very good run as they come into the Arie Luyendyk corner once again. So named, of course, by the famous Arie Luyendyk, who are one of the greatest IndyCar drivers of his generation. Kashube lost a little bit for that corner, however. That dropped him back a car length or so. I am actually looking. In fact, I'll take a closer look at the speed trap times. Kashube wasn't that much faster despite having the draft over Carrillo, Scott. So perhaps Kashube is putting his hopes on just having slightly more downforce to keep that car more stable on the long haul, as we are still only less than 15 minutes into this race.
It does, of course, give him a much better advantage through the twisty sections. Of course, once we get into the second part of this circuit, we get to the very technical, kind of slow corners such as Renault and Vodafone, of course, the Audi S. It will give him that advantage because he'll know he'll have the extra confidence, the extra grip in the car to be able to use that and use it to his advantage to try and get past Quadrado in second place. A little bit wide on the exit of Sheeblack there as they head through the right-hander at Marlborough, and also just behind Frederick. That's not Frederick Foster. That's actually Caseba Volker Jr. now running in 4th position, actually closing in. So it looks as though it's kind of, there's a bit of a pattern following here because Nibali's got a little bit stuck behind Quadrado. Now we're seeing that Kashube's having the same thing. Volker Jr. is actually starting to close in. So it seems to be that Quadrado, even though he has enough pace to be in second, he's the catalyst at the moment between these guys who are trying to push forward, try and close in on Moreno. As we look at Moreno's gap, it's now 5.6, almost even 6 seconds. So in a matter of laps, it's really has gone up rather. He really has been able to extend the gap. But now Kashube, as they head through Arie Luyendyk corner back onto the pit straight, has got a super little exit, it seems. But see if he can get enough running. It was a little bit wide on the exit, using all of the curve to get the better run. But again, it seems as though he wasn't close enough. You need to be right on the bumper of the car in front in order to make the toe work to your advantage. But into Tarzan they go once again. And Kashube's going to try and close in, but have to be careful behind because he's in a catch-22 situation. He has to try and close in on Quadrado in front and try and make a pass, but also keep one eye on Volker Jr. behind because he is going to be up there pouncing in 4th position. And if one small slip-up, one small lapse in concentration from Kashube can spell the end of 3rd place, and Volker Jr. will straight up the inside and into a podium position before he knows it.
give you an update on a couple of drivers. Andre D'Amelia, the 05 car, who was running well in the mid-pack area, but he had a spin, and he's dropped down now to the last car on the lead lap in that 05 National Guard car. So his day is not going as planned there for the Club Italia driver. Also, to give you an update on a fascinating battle between Rasmus Larsen and Martin Asher. Those two are battling for positions right now, and Asher is closing up at the rate of about 0.4 of a second a lap over Larsen. So that battle will be one to watch over the next couple of laps. I want to have a look at the lap times, however, for your top 5. Last time by, Marino did a 1 minute 35.168, just 1/10 of a second slower than his fastest lap of the race. Carudio, his last lap was a 1 minute 35.4, a full 0.3 of a second slower. Kashube, very similar lap times to Carudio, within about 4/1000ths of a second. Volker Jr. Was fastest of all of those top 4, and I tell you what, he has got a great run over Kashube, who now has to go from being the attacker to the defender as they work themselves down towards tyres and back. You see already, Kashube is putting his car in the middle of the racetrack. Volker Jr. is going to have to go around the outside. Will he be able to get the pass done? The answer will be no. He might try to cut under though in the next couple of corners. Not able to make it happen there. But Kashube's car looks very stable in turn number 1. It does seem to be that it's all about the Aaron Leindijk corner, David, that he just loses so much momentum every single lap.
Yeah, it's also the car that you've got in front of you. You don't really want to drive into the back of them, and you can see now with these two battling away, second place has managed to eke out a bit of a safety gap, so he's quite thankful for that. I mean, Frederick Follestad, he is coming back definitely. I mean, he's doing 35.320, so he's a lot faster than that group in front of him. So we're going to see these guys all bunching up together. And behind Frederick Follestad, we've got car number 20, and he's really pushing as well. So this group, I mean, if we see these guys battling a lot more, they're going to slow each other up, and it's going to kind of concertina together. But yeah, back to Kashube Jr. here. He just needs to get a really good drive off these last two long right-handers, just so he can get try and just like outbrake him into turn 1 but he's nowhere near close.
Not that time, no. And I was actually thinking that he could try and do that thing, give attempt to gain 2 tenths overall, just by giving a little bit up in the second to last corner, so that he can get a better run. It doesn't have to lift out of the gas through the centre of the Aaron Leindijk corner, knowing
exactly
how Kashube's struggling through there. However, what has happened is Kashube is now backing up Volker Jr., and Frederick Follestad that last lap was faster than both of them, and Carudio is able to eke out an advantage a little bit. And that last time by, Carudio did his fastest lap of the race, 1 minute 35.180. In fact, he still lost though 0.3 of a second to Mourinho, first guy to break into the 1 minute 34s in this race, and he is flying out front. To give you an update on retirees, Jan-Paul Nielis, we talked about him, he is out of the race. David Masida, Teddy Tonolis, Chevion, Bakken, Bourdais and Palumbo, they are all guys out of the race. 22 guys still scored on the lead lap. Down the field, we have still got some very interesting battles going on. We can't bring you all of it, unfortunately. But I did want to talk about some of those guys who started from the kind of rear of the field. Abe Copa Lopez started from 28th position, Scott, now running in the 13th position, and get this, right now is faster than Rasmus Larsen ahead of him, Andros Jean ahead of him, and also Sebastian Job ahead of him. 3 guys who he is almost a full second a lap faster than right now.
I think it goes to show that effectively with the progress he's making, he should be cracking the top 10 in the next couple of laps. And it does just go to show that if you keep your nose clean out of trouble, you can make up some great positions and a lot of ground, despite starting in the back of the grid. That's definitely an advantage of just being able to keep it on the road. So Coba Lopez having a fantastic run, managing to almost take up through half the field, through a lot of guys running into problems of running into each other and spinning off the racetrack, and manages to keep it on the black stuff. It's a great chance to see guys like him make it through. It shows that he's quite a consistent driver, and that it's great for teams who may be looking for drivers in other championships going forward into next year, of course. If we look back towards the front of the field, and of course now we see Quadrado has managed to pull away across from Kashube, and he himself Kashube is actually just keeping Volker Jr. at bay. Volker Jr. is not as close as he was the last time around, so he's lost a small bit of ground compared to the man in front of him. We look at lap times. for both of these guys. We can see that last time around, Koshube pumped in a 35.3, and comparing that to Volker Jr., put a 35.3. So the fact they match each other in lap time, but I think it looks to me as if Koshube's was fractionally quicker by about 14 thousandths of a second. But when he gets sideways in the middle of Vodafone corner, that's going to compromise
Same place,
his exit.
Polistad lost it.
Same place, exactly. Same place. Fastad lost it several laps ago, and that's going to be really key because now you can see Volker Jr. just looking to the outside. That's forcing Koshube to go a little bit defensive. That's going to compromise his line through the first part of that chicane, and of course then the exit should be much better this time around. And Volker Jr. is not as close. He couldn't get the power down as quickly as he wanted to. And speaking of Fastad, he's not too far away in 5th position. He's just there in the background. He is the man in 5th position, of course, in the number 89 machine. So back onto the pits wreck they come once again, and let's see what the gap is this time around as they cross the line. And Koshube now, the gap between Koshube and Volker Jr. is now about 0.6 of a second. So I see as though Koshube is now just holding off Volker Jr. for the moment, but of course it's still backing Volker Jr. back into the path of Follerstad, and all this is actually allowing Quadrado to pull away. He has a 1.9, almost 2-second advantage over 3rd position, and as for the man in front, 6-second advantage. As there goes Koshube. Okay, that's 2 drivers I've spoken about now who both caused the
Stop talking, Scott.
You need to stop talking, mate. You're just like the commentator's curse. Go and commentate about the leader, and then
I should just leave now, shouldn't I?
Yeah,
that was
later,
down into Hungenholzbox and turn number 3, and it's just as we've seen this so often in slow speed corners, as that weight transfers across this race car, he just lost it, looped it around all by himself, came back onto the racetrack. However, is now scored in the 13th position on the racetrack. Ahead of them though, Angel Suez-Joan and Sebastian Job battling for P8, P9. This is incredibly close battling right now between these two drivers. And David, it does look as though that there are some guys trying to get him through the field. It was easy, for example, earlier on for Lopez. He's caught those guys now, and it is more difficult for him to get past.
Yeah, I mean, once you catch one of the guys in front, it's, you know, as they say, it's one thing to catch someone, but it's another thing to pass. I mean, but, you know, looking further down the field, we've got Simon Field here. Absolutely tremendous race now. He's in the top 20. He's come all the way up from pretty much last place. And this is a tremendous battle with 5 cars, pretty much nose to tail. And hopefully I don't put the commentator's curse like everyone else has done on Simon, but he's driving really well, nice and conservative, just running those laps around. But, you know, he's slowly making up those positions, and he's there with Cisse Ruru.
2 cars off, 2 cars off. That's down into turn number 1. That was Sebastian Job and Jean, so the 2 guys we were talking about, down into turn 1. And it looks like Jean tried to make a very late pass there, and he just caught a little bump down in the grass, and it just sent him straight forward. Wasn't able to do anything. Replays up on your screen momentarily. Jean really, he just overshot the corner there, David, completely, and nothing that Job could do at all on that number 13 car.
Yeah, I mean, once you hit the bumps in these cars, that because of the way the dynamics work on them, they get a little bit airborne, and if obviously if you know you're on the brakes and the car's in the air and then you come back down, you're just going to be a bit of a passenger. That's so unfortunate. He was having a very, very good race there, but you know, these guys are absolutely on the limit here, trying to make up the positions.
And let's not forget at the same time, David, these guys are going to have to make one pit stop in this race. So for the likes of a couple of these guys who might have either worked their tyres a little bit too much too early or have been held up in some traffic, maybe as we get closer and closer to half race distance, they might consider coming in maybe a lap, 2 laps early, try and do the undercut.
You might see some fuel strategy coming into this as well. Some of the guys, a lot of the guys are very good at kind of still carrying that momentum through the corner and keeping the pace up without using fuel in the car. I know that it sounds weird, but if you lift off the throttle a foot or 2 sooner before your braking zone but are able to carry that speed, you do that over like 10 minutes, you're going to save a huge amount of fuel, and some of these guys are very, very good at doing that, and we might see that later on that they can take less fuel as they get into the pit, so strategy might play out here.
Tell you what, Kei Kashibe, you've seen him up on your screen. He's trying to go around the outside there. The number 34 car, not quite close enough. He was very late onto the brakes as he is trying to work on Abby Copa Lopez right now, who has moved himself now up into the top 10. So really is one of the nominations for driver of the day. We've got Sebastian Job on pit road. Of course, he was involved in that incident. We've got a car coming around, and that was Kei Kashibe, who almost lost it there down at turn number 3 once again. Let's talk about that in a little bit more detail, David, because it's the slow speed corners that you really get it most profound. When you know the. Sorry, I just almost thought something was going to happen ahead of them between Lawson and Lopez. They stay line astern for the time being, but it's as you slowed down and that weight transfers across the race car that we always seem to see these cars getting a little bit loose, and it's not always when you put the power down.
Frederick down the inside. This is what I was talking about, when you can get on the inside there and kind of force the driver to look in his mirrors and think, Jesus, is he coming through? No way. Because there's so much camber on that corner. Follistat's looking really racy here. Hope I don't jinx him again, but he's looking good for a podium result here. He just needs to like carry so much speed. But yeah, as you were saying, Will, those low speed corners, when you come down through the gears, you're upsetting the car, and the weight transfer shifts all the way forward. So it's kind of when you're turning in and you're downshifting and braking at the same time, trying to get the car to turn in, you're upsetting it so much that we're seeing these kind of like low speed on power turns. And
we'll come back to a couple of these points in just a moment, but as I say, we are closer to pit stop because we now are into the second half of this race. It is the Team GT presents the RUF party at Zandvoort, as Rasmus Larsen going a little bit sideways there through turn number 3. And Will Vincent, along with David Ward and Scott Woodris, as we are now into the second half of this race, we will be expecting to see guys on pit road at some point in the next 5 to 6 laps. We expect, as it stands right now, it is still Julian Rodriguez Mourinho in the 9 car, leading the way now by 6.6 seconds over Juan Jose Sanchez Carrillo, and that last lap was able to eke up that gap again by about 0.2 of a second. Volker Jr. is still in 3rd, Follis 3rd in 4th. Follis tries to make the pass, and Volker Jr. not quite close enough. Diego Comini rounds out your top 5. Talk about your race leader very quickly, because his lap times have dropped off by about 2 to 3 tenths of a second a lap over the last 4 laps or so, after he set his fastest lap of the race in lap number 12, Scott. So tyre wear is starting to come into play as we're now past half race distance.
Well, in time management, and also, as Dave was alluding to earlier, fuel management, they're 2 very key skills. Of course, you can learn how to time manage, and there are certain drivers who have got it down to a very fine art. And of course, being able to manage your tyres effectively, or be able to do things like lift off a little bit early for a corner, be able to save fuel, and not lose too much time, is a very difficult but very rewarding skill if you can get it absolutely spot on. And it seems to be that Rodriguez has managed to, apart from pumping a couple of quick lap times to kind of just solidify and cement the gap that he has in the lead, he's managed to keep it consistently in the 35s. He hasn't really lapped. He's kept that within about half a second, which is incredible consistency for a car like the RUF RT12R track spec. And of course, on a circuit like Zandvoort, where of course you've got a lot of cambers, a lot of corners where you can carry a lot of speed, that's going to be caused a lot of lateral load on the corners.
We've got a car crashed on the racetrack, the number 64 car, and he was running in the 15th position. And this was with Simon Field by the looks of it. Yeah, the 64 car just spins it around. I'm just trying to figure out what part of the racetrack that was. I think it was through turn number 6. Simon Field had nowhere to go, and it just seems to be a little bit of a tyre bobble there for the 64 cars who ran wide, and Simon Hill just T-boned him. And it looks as though that 64 car is going to be classified as out of the race. Got a car on pit road as well. That is Diego Comini in the number 21 car making his pit stop, and also Frederick Follestad on pit road.
Yeah, I think Diego. I've been watching Diego and Paul.
Oh, Follestad's out, is he? Follestad's out.
Oh, he's decided
no,
to.
I'm not sure what happened, because he was registered in 4th position, but he dropped down to 7th. So what's happened to Frederick Follestad?
We'll give you an update on that, and he was running, of course, so high up the field. It's something that must have happened recently.
Got it. Yeah, just coming out of turn 3, he was just got on the power a little bit too early, spun it onto the grass, bang into the wall. There goes the wing, and obviously the car's geometry is just completely shot then. That's so unfortunate for Frederick. He was very, very fast, but he kind of drives like me. It's all or nothing. You know,
Martin Ashes also just spun that car around, by the way. That was down at turn number 7. And of course, we were talking about the potential tyre wear as we get into the second half of this run. And a couple of drivers have been caught out. But really, for Frederick Follestad, it's hugely disappointing for him, Scott, because coming into this race, he was one of our hot picks. And let's not forget, he qualified for this race in 3rd, had a great start, ran in 2nd before we had that first incident. Perhaps that might have made that car too unbalanced throughout that run.
Quite possibly, and sometimes when you make a mistake like that, psychologically it can kind of knock you a little bit and kind of make you a bit more careful to get on the throttle again. Of course, then once you kind of get over that point, you then think, right, I can start to push a little bit harder. And I think also the fact that the carrot, the kind of incentive in front of you to push harder, was of course the number 27 of Shaba Volker Jr. So of course he was chasing hard after him, and it's easy when you're in the battle with somebody to just kind of get a bit too eager, to let your right foot get a bit too carried away, and just get on the throttle a little bit too much, a little bit too soon. And that's exactly what's happened with Frederick Follestad, where he backed it into the wall, and of course that's caused the damage in order to put him out of the race. One man I do want to mention, he's had a fantastic run. He's up in 4th position, the number 041 of Paul Ilbrick. He's had a fantastic run so far. Of course, he qualified down the latter half of the top 10. But again, kept his nose clean, hasn't got in too much trouble, hasn't had any dramas at all in this race, and he's up to P4. So that's a great run so far. And also have to mention,
he needs to pit first.
He does need to pit, of course, and also we have to mention, of course, Adekoba Lopez. He's now well in the top 10, up from the back of the grid, 28 up to 7th. So he's made up a massive 21 spots since the start. So certainly, as you said, Will, he's putting himself as a massive contender for driver of the day.
Yeah, and of course Lopez, he is running faster than a number of cars around him on the racetrack as well. I'm comparing his lap time to Raymar Reddy. He's going faster. Yep, so they're all in to make their one and only pit stop of the day. Xavier Volker Jr. in 3rd. 2nd position, Sanchez Carrillo. 1st place, Julian Rodriguez Mourinho. Into the pit stops for Mourinho. No issues for him at all. Volker Jr. is into his box. Paul Ilbrink is pitting in. Kashube is pitting in. Reddy is... I think everyone's pitting in, let's be honest about it.
I think Ilbrink's going to have the biggest jump here out of everyone. So hopefully, he's done the biggest amount of laps. They can I don't think he's going to be taking in tyres. I don't think there's going to be any tyres.
A couple of them have.
So it's going to be really interesting to see where Ilbrink comes out here from strategy-wise. Taking a long time to put that fuel in the car. It's like, waiting for eternity, and he can finally get back out. So let's see where he feeds back out into the rest of this pack.
Mourinho was out first, then it was Corrado in 2nd, Volker Jr. 3rd, and then it was Ilbrink who came out in 4th, and Kashube. And that has spread the field out just a little bit, by the way. A couple of cars yet to make their pit stops. Some guys have made their pit stops. It is all going to change over the next couple of laps or so as the pit sequence continues here. Simon Field exiting pit road, Marcus Mayer exiting pit road as we speak. Let's see whether any other cars are going to come onto pit road. Cecily Risk, I believe, has already made his pit stop. But I tell you what, I think that gap has actually increased between Mourinho and Corrado just a little bit on the racetrack. And we'll get confirmation the next time they come past the start-finish line. I'm also intrigued to see whether they took any tyres at all on their pit stop. They did see them both, I think, take tyres. No, Corrado, I don't think Corrado actually did. Yeah, they did both take tyres. But I really don't think that Ilbrink took tyres at all.
Ilbrink definitely didn't take tyres. I didn't see the jacks left up on the car. I mean, for Ilbrink not to take tyres, this is a bit of a gamble, but it might just pay off for him. Only because, he could feel quite comfortable on those loose tyres as you see him get a little bit loose as he comes on the power. But yeah, these guys who have put fuel in the car and haven't taken tyres, taken that kind of gamble, the car is going to handle completely different to how it was before. It's going to be, they're going to have to brake a little bit earlier, the car will oversteer, it will do all the things that you don't want it to do as a racing driver. They're going to really struggle, but I think Ilbrick will be okay. I mean, he's come out behind the Commune, who I don't think took tyres on this, so...
I don't think so, no.
yeah, Diego's done a very, very good job there to get up into the top 5.
Luigi Nespolino, who's currently scored in the 4th position, hasn't yet pitted by our records. There are a couple of guys who have yet to make a pit stop here, but as it stands, it is Mourinho by 6.8 seconds, so no one really gained any time there between the 9 car and the 10. Xavier Volker Jr. is running in 3rd provisionally. It is Luigi Nespolino who's currently scored in the 4th position, then Diego Comini in 5th. Paul Ilbrink, Keiko Shube, Rasmus Lawson, Mayo Reddy, and Ade Cobra Lopez rounds out your top 10. Does seem to be that Kashube lost out the most there on pit road, Scott.
Yeah, it's a funny thing, the pit stops, of course. If you're not able to make the most of the kind of gap that you have coming in and out the pits, you can lose positions. And of course, the fact you've got to be careful not to have an unsafe release. Of course, if you've got cars coming out of the pit lane, you have to be aware, you have to be able to look in your rearview mirrors and see what's coming down that pit lane in order to make sure you're not getting out in front of somebody and eventually get yourself a penalty in the process. So we're going to be seeing a few more cars that come into pit road in the next couple of laps, of course, to make their stops. I can see that Luigi Nespolino and Diego Comini are deciding to stay out, so they will be carry on in 4th and 5th position. Paul Ilbrink, of course, who didn't take tyres on the 041 car, still in 6th, but I think he's now possibly been closed down by Keiko Shube down the pit straight. Rasmus Larsen currently runs in 8th in the 199, and then Mayo Reddy in 9th position. And in fact, no, I actually watched that. Ade Cobra Lopez actually took 9th position from Mayo Reddy into turn 1 at this exact corner where Reddy's just exiting a lap ago. So that was a great move up the inside. A simple pass from Lopez to get that move done. So it's the only stuff we've seen in the top 10, of course, but still we're waiting on, of course, Nespolino and Comini to make those pit stops. Of course, the moment they do, of course, it means they'll start to shuffle back down the order. It will put Paul Ilbrink back into 4th position. But of course, for how much longer? Because Kashube on those fresh tyres compared to Ilbrink on tyres that are about 25-30 minutes old are certainly going to be feeling that by the end of the race. And I guess it's only really a matter of time and a case of when rather than if Kashube is able to close right in and potentially take a 4th position if he can get past.
I just checked, Comini did actually take tyres. Nespolino still hasn't pitted, but Comini has pitted. I tell you what though, lap time wise, Kashube, that last time by, 7/10 of a second faster than Paul Ilbrink. Since Paul Ilbrink made his pit stop his last lap, a 136 dead, and I think he's going to be again in that 136 range as they come past the stripe this time by. And I think this is that critical part of the race. Yes, taking tyres is a little bit longer. You know, a little bit of heartache on pit road always helps a little bit when you're on the racetrack, because those last couple of laps of the race you really do not want to be running on old rubber, especially on a track like this with so many fast sweeping corners. As they come past the start finish line, Paul Ilbrink is going to do himself a 1 minute 35.3 to actually get it all back together. Keiko Shube only took 1/10 away from him that last time by.
Yeah, without, I was waiting for these lap times to come in. I think it's taken Ilbrink just to understand what's going on here. And if we go and look at the times of Diego, he's a 10th faster than him. It might not sound a lot, but over a number of laps, he's going to start reeling him in there. He's not that far ahead. He's only, 4 or 5 seconds ahead of him at the moment. But basically, Ilbrink and Kashube do not want to start battling with each other if they want to get up into the top 5 positions.
So we have got ourselves about 12 minutes left on the play clock. Don't forget, GlacierTV presents a Winning Day show every Friday, 4 PM Eastern on GlacierTV. Also available on iTunes and on the ETV Motorsports Radio Network as well. Just having a look, and actually I think Ilbrink's pulling away from Kashube this lap, Scott.
It's quite intriguing that Ilbrink's actually managed to do this despite the fact he has got pretty old tyres. It does seem to be that if you are careful on your rubber, you can make them go the distance. And of course, again, I was talking about, of course, having the ability to make your tyres last, and having that careful tyre skill, very careful tyre management, but not losing too much time. And that seems to be what Paul has when driving this car, it seems, because he is keeping Keiko Shube at bay despite the fact that he has got fresher tyres, but it's right behind them. So I want to have a look at as Ade Cobra Lopez is lined up. Rasmus Larsen is now side by side down the pit lane. He's got the inside run, and through goes the 34 car past the 199 into now it's 8th position. So Ade Cobra Lopez continuing his superb drive up from near the back of the field up to the top 10 place. This is certainly going to be a job well done from Lopez if he can stay there and possibly continue to move up through the field, because the pace he's showing, I want to possibly. He was able to pull away from Mayor Reddy incredibly quickly. as soon as he got past him. So I wonder if there's a lot more pace than maybe is being let on in that car, because we've seen him, you know, manage to push his way up through the field so much. And now, of course, he could even sail off the back of Keiko Shube if the number 16 car is not careful enough and he's too fixated on trying to close over Paul Ilbrick. Of course, he's going to have to keep one eye on his mirrors for the flying at 34 of Ade Cobo Lopez. So I think possibly if he's quick enough and he's got the pace on those fresh tyres and able to utilise them a little bit better, get them up to temperature a little bit faster than Kashube has done, then quite possibly I think we could be seeing Lopez maybe trying to make a move in the next few laps, provided he can pull away from Larson now that he's managed to get himself in front.
And of course, Lopez's last lap was 135.165. He was a little bit slower than Kashube, but of course had to line up and make that pass. Kashube has caught slightly up to the rear of Ilbrink once again. I think unless there's a mistake from Kashube or Ilbrink, 8th place is going to be about as high as Lopez is going to be able to do. However, still a sterling drive there by the number 34 car. And again, Kashube doesn't like the Arie Luyendyk corner. He loses time there every single lap. And it's ironically the one corner where you need to be good to get a good exit to then line up another car. And Kashube's not been able to make that pass on anyone really all race long because of the fact he has struggled in that Arie Luyendyk corner to complete the lap. Paul Ilbrink, that last lap, again, it was a couple of attempts slower than Kashube, but now they're in the draft, it's not that important at all. The action has kind of calmed itself down a little bit. We still have 17 cars scored on the lead lap. Frederick Pollestad is the first of the retirees, classified in the 18th position right now. But, David, it's fascinating seeing how Ilbrink's been able to do this. And of course, though, there is that tipping point. If he pushes too hard trying to defend, it'll be game over. He might lose a ton of positions in the last couple of laps.
Yeah, he's absolutely on the limit. I mean, he's half a second faster than Kiomane at the moment, and he's reeling him in with, you know, just over 8 minutes to go. It's going to be really tight towards the end so you can get that top 5 position. But Diego, you know, I've raced with him. He's very, very consistent and nice and smooth and doesn't often make mistakes. So it's going to be tough once Ilbrick gets up to him. I don't know if he can make that move, but Kashube, he's really trying to chase down Paul now. And again, these two guys are going to be battling it out as we cross the line. Ilbrick does a 35.1 and Kashube does
35.16.
35.16, and Comene's doing a 35.9. So that almost is second quicker than the Comene right now.
Did you see Lopez's lap time though? 134.7. He's by far the fastest of that group, and actually is lapping faster. He actually has, as far as I'm aware, the fastest lap of the race right now. I think he's just gone purple there in that number 34 car. Now, that in itself would have put him in second place on the grid for this race. That really shows how sometimes qualifying doesn't go your way. You have to charge yourself through the field. But for Lopez, he is closing up to the rear of Keiko Shube, and we've talked about this all race long. Kashube not good in the final corner. Lopez, with little under 10 minutes left on the play clock, really can push and try and make that pass if he can get that good run through the Arie Luyendyk corner. Around also, you've got Martin Asher and Egil Seinfeld. They are battling for P11 and 12 on the racetrack, Scott. And Asher right now is a lot faster, a second lap faster than Egil Seinfeld is.
Absolutely. Just try to continue that. What was it you said just now? Ade Cobo Lopez, 8th is as high as he'll get. With the pace he's running, I don't think that'll be the case. He's absolutely flying out there, managing 134s. But so, excuse me, back to the battle between Martin Asher and Egil Seinfeld, of course, over that 11th spot. And this is going to be a pretty freaky battle. Again, it'll all be about this last corner. Let's just see just how close Asher can get. If he can get close enough, which I'm not sure he will, he's nowhere near. Because although I say that, and Seinfeld puts the wheel onto the dirt through Kumo box, and he has had to actually brake a little bit, very lined up. That's really compromised his exit. And now I think see that Martin Asher's tail is going to be up. And look at that. In fact, he's got so much momentum thanks to the better run. He managed to pull that car just alongside, gets it up the inside, and Seinfeld will try and hold the outside line. He's going to try and defend as best he can, but in the end, he has to give the position up, and that is now 11th place for Martin Asher in the 31, and Seinfeld's going to have to try and reclaim that place all over again. And of course, I'm pretty sure he'll be fired up to try and get it back as they head out of the left hand of Gerlach box, and now as they head through the very fast sweeps of Hunterrug and back towards Skiblack. It's a very high speed section, and it's very bumpy, especially the second part of the head over here. Look at the bumps they suffer as they go through there. The rough RC12 track car kind of bouncing around on its suspension. Very careful not to get the car too loose. We saw Fredrik Vollerstad on the qualifying do that. So these guys pushing on as best they can to get it done.
Sorry to butt in there, but yeah, Lopez and Kachube and Ilbrick are. I think Kachube's got the hurry up as he's seen Lopez looming in his mirrors here, and he's kind of closed the gap up onto Ilbrick. So we're going to have a three-way battle for the 6th position here.
Look it from here though. Well, oh god, Kachube goes very wide. This is going to allow Lopez the chance there. And I was going to say, our line out box is the corner that he struggles on anyway. But here comes Lopez. He might not be close enough as they come down into Tarzan. Once again, he's going to put that car down to the inside just for the head of it. Make Kachube drive defensively, because now he can close up as they come out of turn number 1. Bit of a wiggle there for Kachube as they work themselves through turn 2, down into turn number 3 once again. Lopez not quite close enough to stick it down the inside, but those 3 cars, they really kind of eked out now with, as I say, not much time left on the play clock, just 5 minutes left to go. Lopez lost out a little bit there through turn number 3, but for Kachube now, he's going to have to think, well, what is Ilbrink doing? Because Ilbrink is close enough to really hurt the lines that Kachube takes. At the same time, Lopez is the one who's just having to charge right now, and actually he's in the best position of these top 3. A bit of a bump there from Ilbrink as he ran over the curb. But Kachube, I think he's now going to try and stick it down the inside of, and he's going to go around the outside there of Paul Ilbrink. Will he try and make that pass and get a bit of separation? He's going to really hold that inside line. He's going to go right alongside him as they work it down into the S once again. Will it be the case of who is the last of the late breakers? Lopez is just sitting there thinking, don't crash, guys. Kachube on the inside wasn't able to make the pass, but will he try and do the cut under as they come down into turn number 12 once again? This is the corner that Kachube's always struggled in, and this could be a telling part of the race for him, because Lopez will be right there as well as they work themselves through turn number 12, turn number 13. Can Kachube finally get turn 13 going? The answer is not really, and that allows Lopez now, as they're all running it right down to the wall. Actually, there's 2 moves there. Lopez is close enough. He's going to have to go around the outside, though, and Lopez not quite going to get it, but look at that. Ilbrink was a little bit slow there, and that really bunched them all together.
Yeah, he really parked on the apex there, just to kind of slow Lopez up, just to give him a little bit of breathing space. But here he comes up against Ilbrick. This is a fantastic battle for the 6th position here, as they both come out wide onto the curbs. It looks like Sube really, he saw Lopez coming and really decided to make a push onto Ilbrick. I don't know where he's going to make his move.
Oh, big wiggle.
Here we go.
He comes.
He's going down the inside here. This is one of the fastest sections. Ilbrick's going to try and hang out on the outside. He's definitely going to lose out another position to Lopez if he throws it down in there. But he doesn't. They go side by side. Can Ilbrick throw it down into the next turn? He does. They're side by side again. This is fantastic.
It's incredible stuff. This is absolutely incredible stuff. They're
come down
side
into
by
the
side.
S. And they're going to come down into the S. It will be Kachube with the inside line. He might just get clear. The answer is going to be, he does just clear Ilbrink as they come through the S. Of course, though, we've now got the issue of turn 12 and 13 once again to think about. Kashube's a big issue in this race. Down into 12 they come with 2 minutes and 55 seconds left on the play clock. Lopez hasn't been able to gain any advantage out of this, but let's see what happens as they storm past the start-finish line once again, because I tell you what, Ilbrink is pretty close. He's going to try and line Kachube up. He's going to go around the outside, down into Tarzan corner once again. Can he make it stick on the outside? The answer is going to be, they're going to remain side by side through turn number 2.
Look at Lopez on the exit. Look at Lopez on the exit trying to get the move done, but Ilbrick was quick enough to get back onto the racing line to hold the position. And this is a fantastic start. Apologies to the guys who are running in the top in the top 5. Of course, they're running their own race. Of course, the closest battle in between them is, just for the record, it's between Espolino and Community. 1.1 seconds separates them. But you cannot take your eyes off this battle between 6th, 7th and 8th. Kachube, Ilbrick and Lopez. This is the closest battle on track, and the most entertaining for that matter, as they head through Skiblack through the right-hander. It's now, of course, it's Kachube who is in control of this threesome as they head into the Renault corner, and Elbrick will now try to close up. He's going to try and reclaim that 6th position, but of course remember, Koshube and Lopez are on fresher tyres. Of course, whereas Elbricks have done almost entirely the race distance up until this point. So Elbrick is the one that's had to do the careful tyre management, and amazingly, he's managed to make it work as they head down back towards the Audi S, and they're all in single file once again. But Elbrick is close. It all depends on what kind of exit Elbrick gets in the second part here. It seems to be that Koshube is a little bit stronger. Elbrick clouds the curve. You can see that number 0441 car bouncing around on the exit of the corner. But let's see what kind of run that Lopez will get through Kubo and through Ari Lines. Let's see if he can get possibly a run. He's done this a couple of times already. Can he make it 3 in a row? Let's have a look and see what he can do. Down the pit straight they come again. Koshube comes across the line to hold on to 6th position, nowhere near. So Lopez again does exactly the same kind of tactic he did to Koshube. Just darts to the inside to try and make it stick. Can he goes up the inside? But he was never far enough, and that would never have worked at all because Elbrick had the line perfectly covered. Lopez has to back out of it. But of course, with just a couple of minutes left to go on the play clock,
you say a couple of minutes. This is final lap.
Final lap.
Yeah,
final lap. It's the final lap then. So this is now never for Lopez.
Yeah, you're definitely going to see Lopez maybe try and throw it at the inside. Depends how desperate he wants to be. But I mean, he's had a good run, and Elbrick's really fantastic driving for him to come up to 7th on the grid. He goes a little bit inside. I just cursed him. I tell you what, he'll bring off the racetrack, and that is really going to hurt him. He's going to fall outside the top 10, and it's the corner we saw, of course, Follispad have issues in qualifying. No. The 41 car in the final lap of the race is pretty much limping home to the line. We have got ourselves 12 seconds left on the play clock. I'm just having a look at Mourinho as he comes out of the final corner for the final time. I don't think he will make it back to the line before the play clock runs out. This is white flag, checkered flag in hand. Mourinho is going to do one more lap according to our timing and scoring. So there is exactly one more lap in this race as far as I'm aware. So it's Mourinho from Carudio, from Volca Jr., from Nespolino, from Diego Comini, from Kei Koshube. They are doing one more lap around here. And Lopez, he's nowhere near close enough though this time by. It's going to have to be an absolutely phenomenal first couple of sectors if he's going to have the chance to close up and try and win this race. I'll tell you what though, Koshube, it all might come down to the final corner, and Lopez, let's not forget, has been really good at that final corner. Koshube has been struggling, but out front, it is Rodriguez Mourinho in that number 9 car. He's working himself down into turn number 6 for the final time. We haven't really talked about him since the drop of the green flag. However, that Club Iberia driver has been absolutely dominant in this race. He hasn't been able to set the fastest lap of the race because that will go to Koba Lopez in the 34 car. However, for Mourinho, he is now leading by 6 seconds in this race. He's eked out of it just a little bit ever since that pit stop, ever since he knew that he was going to be able to cruise his car home to race victory. And Lopez, he's close, but he's not close enough. We'll come back to that in a moment. But Mourinho is coming out of the Arline corner for the final time. He will now take victory in the Team GT presents the RUF party at Zandvoort. He comes home first. Second place will be Carodio. We'll go back to have a look at Lopez and Koshube. It might well come down to these final couple of corners between Koshube and Lopez. Can Koshube hold it together for 2 more corners? He's a little bit slow through turn number 12. However, it doesn't look slow. Lopez is closing off, but he does get a little bit sideways there. Koshube, it's going to be a drag race to the line. If Lopez can just get close enough, I don't think he will, but it's going to be mighty, mighty close. 1/100th of a second at the line between them, and Koshube just gets 6th position. And I have to say, apologies to Volca Jr., Nespolino, and Comuni because we didn't catch him across the line. But what a great finish to the race, David. That was fantastic. The battle between Koshube, Lopez, and Ilbrick. I have to say that if he ever watches this back, he'll probably be cursing my name because I pretty much, it's that horrible commentator's curse when you're watching someone and then they just spin off. It's like, it's crazy. But yeah, fantastic driving by everyone. Diego Comini, top 5 position. He was almost had 4th there with catching up with car number 20 there. Driver of the day is obviously Mourinho. He just kept that gap, managed his tyres, managed his pace. Superb driving from him, and the other guys on the podium, you know, is very, very close between those guys. Yeah, really great racing. Very sorry to Frederick Follestad. He should have done a lot better than he did, but his all or nothing driving style just didn't really suit this track. Simon Field, another great drive from him, and Cesare Roux, he was there as well. So, and Samfield, fantastic drive. He made it up there, and everyone else who I forget to mention, awesome driving.
You've mentioned
great
almost
racing.
all of them now.
Yeah,
Let's be honest.
Yeah, it's amazing driving by everyone. Yeah, fantastic. If you guys ever race together again, let me know, because I'll come and watch you. It was great entertaining.
We'll run through your final race results then. And Julian Rodriguez Mourinho takes victory in the number 9 car by 5.6 seconds over Juan Jose Sanchez Carrillo. And Mourinho actually crossed the start-finish line right as the checkered flag was coming out. He did an additional lap there, which really did hurt Paul Ilbrand, but we'll come back to that in just one moment. Kazepa Volker Jr. comes home in the 3rd position in the number 27 car. He was actually very close to the rear of Carrillo at the end of the race. Only 1.1 second further back. We didn't get any of that action, but Volker Jr. came home in 3rd. Luigi Nespolino in the number 20 car comes home in the 4th position. Diego Comini in 5th. Then the battle that we showed you for the last couple of laps, Kei Koshube manages to hold on and take 6th position from Adekoba Lopez in 7th, who drove from the rear of the field. He qualified in 28th position and comes home in the 7th position. Then it is Rasmus Larsen in 8th, Martin Asher in 9th, Egil Sandfield rounds out your top 10. Mayo Reddy 11th, Marcus Meyer in 12th, Stefano Gurelli in the 13th position, Seth Ria in the 14th position, and then Simon Field rounds out the cars he finished in 15th. Paul Ilbrink, the first of the retirees, in the 16th position. After that contact with 2 laps to go, he spun that car around, hit the wall, game over for him. Nuno Maria in 17th, Frederick Follestad 18th, Diego Ranco Bolden in 19th, and Sebastian Job rounds out your top 20. Driver of the day, Scott, go.
I think I definitely.
By the way, you only get 20 seconds.
I think I definitely have to give it to the man who came from the back of the field to eventually finish 7th with some brilliant passing moves. It has to be Lopez in position 7. Adekoba Lopez, what a fantastic drive from him to get out there to the top 10. And I think he really did press the likes of Koshube and Ilbrink really hard the final laps, which forced Ilbrink to make that mistake. But of course, have to credit it. Great drive by Mourinho to dominate the race from take a lights to flag victory. But for the sheer number of places he made up and keeping his nose relatively out of trouble, Lopez gets my driver of the day without question.
Yeah,
David?
I totally agree with Scott there. Lopez, without a shadow of a doubt, to be able to do that from the back of the field. Not sure if he was trying to prove a point or whatever, but if he'd have been up there at the front, I definitely think he could have been battling for that lead position. Great drive from him. That's definitely, but not taking anything away from our winner. He did what needed to be done.
And for me, I'm going to agree with Scott. Lopez, driver of the day. And that wraps up our coverage of Team GT presents the RUF Party at Circuit Park Zandvoort. Presented to you by ESRA, the European Sim Racing Association, and also in part by iRacing as well. Head over to iRacing.com right now to get yourself special offers for new memberships. And heck, you could be driving the RUF with a number of these drivers. Of course, we have got to finish our broadcast on a slightly more somber note. For those of you who's been keeping up to date with the news today, we're aware that 7-time F1 champion Michael Schumacher in a critical condition after a fall while skiing earlier on today. No new information really, except that he is suffering from a serious brain trauma with coma on his arrival in hospital in the southeast city of Grenoble. And of course, all of our thoughts and prayers with him and his family from all of us at GlacierTV and iRacing Brazil as well. And on that note, we'll see you all next time. Great racing here today, and Shumi, get well soon.